Hello and welcome along to what has so far been known as the vlog with no name, but has now got a name. I'm going to call it Bloke Off the Telly. And that's a reference to a TV programme that I was on a couple of years ago called Rock Till We Drop. It was on BBC Two, and it was about us people of the golden generation who are still rocking it out, and we formed two bands. It was all very good. It was Martin Kemp and Fleur East. We had a band each. I was in Fleur's band, which was originally Lady Lisa's band. I'm not going to go into it all. Go and Google it. Rock Till We Drop. Martin Abrams. You get the whole story. And so that's what I'm going to call it. Bloke Off the Telly, because I was on the telly. I had a couple of weeks of fame afterwards, getting stopped for selfies in the supermarket and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I thought that would be a good, cool name to give the vlog. And this week's episode, more importantly, or as importantly, I want to talk about the demise of the recording studio and what I think the effect that it's had on music in general. And to start off with, I mentioned before, 16 or 17, whatever I was, living in Littlehampton in Sussex, and was in this little band, and a fella came down, moved to Littlehampton, and he was the Who's accountant or Track Records accountant, took us under his wing, and as events unfolded, he was going to take us into the recording studio. I've never been in a recording studio in my life, and this was a very, very exciting thing. And the first studio that I ever went into with him was R.G. Jones in Wimbledon. Strangely enough, when I decided to do this for a vlog, I thought, God, I bet, so many recording studios now of that era are either luxury flats or belong to a coffee chain or whatever. But surprisingly, R.G. Jones, which was, for its time, it was, it's quite a humble little studio, although loads of people know it. But it's still going. Unsurprisingly, what they do now is video game sound design. I don't know if they've still got a live room and all that, but they are still going, and quite a lot of the bigger studios have disappeared. And throughout my career, can you call it that? Is that not too big a word? But throughout my time, playing in bands and doing this and that in the music business, I've been in some really good studios. Trident, Olympic, the Townhouse. Just Olympic Studios alone. The Stones recorded Beggar's Banquet there. Jimi Hendrix recorded Electric Ladyland there. Are You Experienced as well, I think. But you've talked, Led Zeppelin recorded there. All these people, and when you went into a studio, you were walking into people that were your heroes, standing on the same ground that they stood on, playing your guitar, singing into a microphone, or in the same place that they were, using the same equipment that they made all these classic albums with. And it was totally magical. It really, really was magical. And it meant something. And when you went in there as a band, you went in there and you felt that collectively as a band. You felt the vibe. It's like playing a really prestigious gig. I'm thinking that like the 100 Club is a really prestigious little gig. When you stand on that stage, you feel something. You feel a vibe. And us musicians are also music fans, and we, I don't know, when you're performing in those places or being in those studios, almost like, what's the word, osmosis, something of the spirit of your heroes. You latch onto that, and it was a really, really amazing thing. And I suppose what's happened is even going from those heydays, the 60s, 70s, or whatever, even moving into the 80s, we started to see the Linn drum came along and the Fairlight synthesizer. So we started to see the beginnings of digital instruments, but in those early days, in the 80s and all that, I think the Gary Newman records, I think I just have a thing in here, that Gary Newman records in particular, they had synthesizers and this, that, but they went in and they played them. They weren't sequenced, so there was still a human element going on, and there was still this thing of getting in a studio and people actually, they might have been playing electronic drums, but it was a man, or a woman behind, a human being anyway, behind a drum kit. And there's just something about that. When you get people in a room communicating, playing music together, something happens. And I think even though they were digital instruments, they were being played in an analog way. And music is analog. It's not digital. It is the actual thing of it, the actual organic thing of a piece of music. It's an organic analog thing, and we human beings, we're analog too. We're not digital. We're not. It doesn't matter how tightly defined the zeros and ones are in the digital thing. They're not curves. And human beings are curves, We have a heartbeat that hopefully, I'm very grateful to say in my case, is very regular. Our heartbeat is very regular, but it changes according to our mood. Our temperature changes according to our mood, our everything, our vibration, it changes according to what's going on, to stimuli, to mood, to thought, to all those kind of things. We're changing kind of constantly. And if something's digital, it's not. It's like that. And I think what's happened is, as music has become more and more digital, and it's moved away from actually playing synthesizers to sequencing them. So it's not a human being playing it, it's a human being programming it, but it's a machine playing it. And it's on the grid. When you see digital drum patterns, if you I don't want to get too, I don't want to lose too many listeners, but there are grids. You can see a physical grid on your computer screen, and you can put that beat bang on the grid, And so here's the thing. In the 80s, another thing, an underlying thing maybe that's not to do with sequencing, but people started to use click tracks more and more, because it's a thing that drummers in particular, well, the drummer drives the band, hopefully, but so a drummer doesn't speed up or slow down, it's got a click, okay? So it's a metronome, an electronic metronome, and the drummer can hear it in his ears. Actually, I was in a band in the late 80s, early 90s, and I've told this story before. I started playing music when I was 3, And I used to play knitting needles and a biscuit tin along to Jack Parnell and his orchestra on Sunday night at the London Palladium. And then years later, I was in a band with Jack Parnell's son, Rick Parnell, who also happened to be the drummer in Spinal Tap. And, well, while I'm name dropping, actually in that band as well was the band itself didn't come to much, but people in it did. It was Malcolm Joseph. He went on to play bass with Nana Cherry and has been Grace Jones's bass player for a long time. Years. Paul McGuinness, who went on to work with Shane MacGowan and the Popes. Me, talking to you now, Rock Till We Drop, bloke off the telly. And Rick Parnell, drummer from Spinal Tap, and Jack's son, who was the finest musician I have ever encountered. Not because of immense technical skill, although he was technically skilled, but he had this thing that I think he must have got from his dad, which was he would conduct the band from the drummer's seat. He would you'd be playing a chorus, you'd be playing a verse at one kind of thing, and you go into the chorus and he'd just lift you a bit. Then the next verse, he might push you a bit more. Then that chorus, he'd bring you up a bit more. And then from the middle eight, he'd take you up somewhere else. And then blah and blah. And he'd just steer you through until at the end of the song, the climax, he'd just be pushing you. And it was almost like being in a symphony orchestra. It was so orchestrated and so musical, and it came from Rick's drumming, and I think he must have got that from his dad, because his dad conducted the orchestra on the Sunday night at the London Palladium. He must have got that thing from him, I guess. And he was a truly amazing musician. And that leads me nicely into saying that what's happened is we've lost that now. Not completely, there are exceptions, yeah, I know. But it's not the general rule of thumb, that a bunch of lads get together in the school or the youth club or this, that and the other and blah, 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 and they go into a recording studio. It's not like that now. It's like, as I've said before, he's 15, he's got an interest in music, he's got a phone or a laptop, he's got a recording studio, he can do his thing, and it's like, and it's led supply and demand, because recording studios have kind of disappeared, and because people have got living rooms and Logic Audio like I've got. But it's that thing, that communication, that simpatico, is that the right word? I don't know, but that thing has kind of gone. And what's happened is that music now, thanks to quantization, digital quantization, is perfectly in time. And thanks to auto-tune, is perfectly in tune. And thanks to enhanced and advanced software that can sonically shape a piece of music, it's all become so perfect. And really, as I mentioned earlier on, we're not perfect. We're organic and we move as us human beings. And I think music should be organic and move. And it's like, look, there's come a time as well, I've worked with some very fine musicians, very fine drummers who can sit on a click track, okay, have the rigid beat, right, but they can play a little bit behind it when they need to, or a little bit in front of it when they need to, and then you're playing as a band, you can get into that, and so you can have this perfect thing of having it like bang on the money, right, but also have this human element going on. But it's kind of rare now, and I think that it's another thing that's it's another thing that's been lost. And usually I don't get into this thing of like, oh, the good old days and now it's the crap old days. It's not like that. There are checks and balances, okay. But I think that thing of making an organic piece of music that communicates with an organic human being has sadly, largely, it's not without exception, but has largely gone by the wayside. And I think that's, sad, isn't it? Your kids don't know what you're missing. It's weird because, from my own point of view, I sit here with my Logic and I do it. I play, these little things, these little bits of music that I give you. There's another one on the end of this vlog. They're just demos of my songs that I'm doing for my first solo album, and I do everything. So I program a drum machine and I play everything, all the guitars, all the backing vocals, all the bass, all the keyboards, everything. It's all me. In fact, some of the keyboards are from a keyboard pack, but only if they're block chords. If there's fiddly diddly keyboard bits, it's me, and it takes me hours to do it because I'm probably I can't think of anything that I'm less skilled at than playing the keyboards, but I managed to do it somehow for you, my lovely listeners. But I do. But anyway, but all this stuff I do here, it's just me. It's just me and a drum machine, really, I've had a band until really recently, but the thing of getting I don't want to get into a thing of this now, but the thing of getting the gigs, kind of gigs that I want to be playing at, I've got to join a 10-year queue, really, and I'm already 70. I don't want to be 80 and go, oh, I finally got that gig. So my time's more fruitfully invested, I think, doing these vlogs and playing you my little tunes at the end of them. And my solo album is happening, and hopefully it will be happening with some fine musicians. I just have to find the money to pay for them, but it will be. And so I'm kind of in a position where I miss playing with the lads, but I can't just bring them into rehearsal room every week, and go, oh, we've got a gig at the Pig and Goose, for 50 quid. It's just not fair on them. They're fine musicians and they've got their own careers. But for the album, I'll bring them back. Or whoever I can afford. And so anyway, that, I think, brings this vlog to a conclusion. I don't know if it has. It has. It has, as far as I'm concerned. It's my vlog. So that's it. I'm going home. Actually, I am home. I'm going to play you a gorgeous tune now. This is called Blue Hut. And I wrote this a few years ago, and it's the one song that I ever play live, and people go, "Oh yeah, that Blue Hut song. Who did that? That's a good." They think it's like an old soul song or something. It's not. I wrote it. I'm really complimented that people think that about it, but I wrote it and I love it, and I think it might be, if you help me, it could be the first hit. you know, and hopefully help me retire from doing a bleeding day job, which I have to do. Anyway, until the next time, please do subscribe. Sorry to be a pain in the nuts, but it's like, it's quite important. Here comes Blue Hut. Please do enjoy. I'll see you next time. And I don't know, I do this thing, blow you a kiss at the end and all that. Is that corporate or what? Or do I mean it? I mean it. Do good stuff, all right? See you later. Thank you for joining in. Used to wake up in the morning, all alone in my bed, looking for sunshine, but the rain came instead. Life once lived and started, someone turned out the light, took away my summer day, left with a cold winter night. I'll go to my blue hut, touch the ground. My blue hut, touch the ground. Go to my blue hut, touch the ground, touch the ground, touch the ground, touch the ground. Out of the darkness, warm light came to me. She was dancing in the shadows, took some time for me to see. Now the whys and the wherefores, they don't matter no more. See, I'm coming home now, through my old front door. Now go to my blue hut, touch the ground. My touch the ground. Go to my blue hut, touch the ground, touch the ground, touch the ground, touch the ground.
Turn